first pitch. It was on par with Dr. Fauci's first pitch.
Obama's?
I mean, oh yeah, he throws like a girl.
On that note, welcome to Over 50. Starting over, everybody. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
And we are winding up the third week of July 2020, believe it or not. So the seventh month. Yeah, we're going into the final week of July. That is hard to believe.
Unreal. What a year this has been.
That's what I was just going to say.
No other year. I was talking to my daughter about this, and I was saying, you know what? In my whole life, I've never had a crazier year. I've never seen anything like this in my whole life.
We thought 9/11 was something, and it was. It really was. It was such a bizarre thing to live through. I mean, everybody remembers where they were at as that was taking place. And I just remember the whole day, I couldn't work or anything. I just sat there in front of the TV wondering if life as we knew it was over.
And it really was, though. I mean, as we knew it, life was over, but this is on a whole different exponential scale.
It's so bizarre because the COVID thing coincides with this whole protesting movement, anti-cop, anti-establishment, just chaos. People just want chaos. And so those two things coming together just makes this one crazy year. And and then with COVID's probably going to do to our economy, which is so speculative. And I think not enough people are taking that realistically, taking it seriously.
I think you're right. It feels like this is actually going to be the worst of the two. I mean, coronavirus, that's bad, but what's happening with the economy and the effects, I think we're going to have much longer term effects when it comes to the economy. And you know, I keep hearing this argument of, hey, it's a matter of life and death with your, doing these things for COVID-19. So we have to shut down the economy. But, the economy is actually our lifeblood. People live and die in the economy. Not only is it our ability to make a living, have shelter, have food, but also mental health is affected.
Well-being.
When we start to look at the comparisons to the suicide rate, I mean, we know what happened during the Great Depression was that the suicide rate spiked during that time, and now I think I heard recently we're at 12% unemployment right now, and this whole, hey, we're going to open up. No, we're not going to open up. That whole thing, that is, it's devastating morally.
Yeah, and Ohio just got completely kind of shut down. Masks are mandated all throughout Ohio now on a 24/7 basis.
But have they shut down anything, though? I mean,
I don't really think so. It's kind of like both the gym and I went to Barrio yesterday afternoon for a couple tacos after a meeting that I wanted to tell you about, ask you a question about from a sales perspective. And if you walk into these places, that's what's mandated. Walk in and out with a mask on. But then once you're in there, people are doing various things. But I just think that everybody has to practice adult behavior. Stay 6 feet apart, for God's sakes. You're not going to eat with a mask on. So realize that if you got a problem with that, don't go. Don't go to the restaurant. Stay home. That's you can do that. But I just I can't wait for it to be over with. I can't wait. These vaccines, there's some really positive news there. It can't come quickly enough for me. But at the same time, I'm going to say it just seems like that the virus itself is weakening. And that's just me talking. I haven't really heard that. But when the number continues to climb as much as being publicized, and yet the death rate is, you hear various things. In fact, I haven't looked it up for a week or so, which is a long time in our today, the way things are today. I'm going to look it up right now. But what are you thinking?
No, I've been looking at the numbers a lot, actually, and I think you're right. When you take a look at the number of instances compared to the death rate, I think that's what really tells the whole story. We've had a slight uptick. We have had an uptick in the death rate, that's for sure, but we've had a dramatic scaling up when it comes to testing. And It seems to me that a lot of the testing are people that are either asymptomatic or they've got very light symptoms. When you take a look again at the data, what you're seeing is what we've known for the last couple of months, that there is a certain group of the population that has that are extremely susceptible and they're vulnerable. And we know that in some states, the death rate was up to 80% of the deaths in nursing homes. And so this is the story that we're not hearing right now. Shutting down the entire economy for this COVID-19 does not seem like a rational nor a reasonable response. And I'm in the hospital industry, and this is having a devastating effect on our hospitals. Closing down elective procedures those are the lifeblood of the hospital. And for a sustained period of time, if this is going on, what's going to happen is these hospitals will not be able to stay open, curtailing our ability to care for patients, even COVID-19 patients. So there's got to be more of a reasonable, happy medium to be able to sustain our not only our economy but our livelihood and our lives in general.
Yeah, I agree. I'm tired of talking about it, but I'm tired of living it.
That's the thing. We were living it. We can't get out of it. It's like have you ever had a nightmare and you're having a nightmare and you're trying to wake up but you can't?
Yeah,
that's what we're living in.
That's a good way to put it. I looked up, this is interesting. So I look up the statistics on coronavirus about once a week or so. And you just type in Google coronavirus, and then off on the side, you get a bunch of selections, statistics. You click on statistics, you get the map. And then you typically can view it via state, via the whole nation, and number of new cases and deaths, but deaths was taken out. I had to type that in particularly into my Google search.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
And I would say that looking at the chart, it's just held steady. It's not increased, not decreased. It's up and down, but it's generally been holding steady at the somewhat lower end. So if you compare that to the amount of increases being reported, I come up with, it sounds to me like the virus is weakening, or you would say that the amount of testing is, skyrocketing.
Well,
and there is that.
Compare that to like the death rate back in March, April. I mean, you look at that graph and it's like, holy cow, we're nowhere near where we were back then. And yet, we're doing a lot more testing. There's a lot more exposure to this whole thing. So I go with your theory on this. It does seem to be weakening, although
maybe
media,
I don't know.
No, you're a doctor. You play that on TV.
Right. I hate to
Dr.
even
Edwards.
put it out there like I know something. It's just talking between my buddy and I. That's what I'm surmising.
That's what we're doing here.
Right. Yeah. So, hey, for the O5O segment, I wanted to tell you, of course, I want to hear how your second week has gone, but I want to ask you something first. I want to tell you something. So I got referred to a new prospect, a new potential client.
Yeah.
They are a tool manufacturer for the manufacturing industry. They diamonds on these metal sticks that engrave things, all different kinds of materials for all kinds of different industries, because diamonds are the hardest material known on Earth. And so they can etch into metal or whatever it may be. Contact lens industry is big because of the precision. So it's all about, extreme precision. Anyways, so I had a meeting out there yesterday, and it was the guy that brought me in is their IT guy, really nice guy who's got a very solid relationship with them, 12 years worth. And so much so that I come there and I get the tour of the place because he says, the powers that be, I forget, I don't know if they were owners or the general manager, whatever you want to say, but there's two people that were decision makers that were in a meeting in the conference room with some other people. And he's like, so let's have a couple people take us on a tour here while we wait. And I'm fully prepared. I put their site through some analysis. They ask, I'm coming in to analyze their online presence. Okay, this is like typical for me. My new clients, it's always like, yeah, we had somebody do our website and maybe our social media, but nothing has happened. We've gotten no return on this, and why is that? And that's very, very typical to bring me in because I specialize in lead generation. So, and enhancing the SEO, but that's part of it. So I'm getting the tour, the nicest people in the world. Oh my God, everybody is. And it looks like a great place to work. Like you can sense a culture just by walking through.
You really can.
A big open factory, and everybody is just seem like they're enjoying what they're
whistling.
doing. Yeah, pretty much. And so we get through the tour now, and this is taking a while because I'm meeting people and they're telling me, oh yeah, I've been wanting somebody to do this for a long time. We want to expand our market because we got all of our eggs in like 5 baskets for the most part. One of them falls through, we're in trouble. So we want to expand, and they're telling me all this stuff. I've not even had a chance to talk to decision makers or present a proposal yet. And they're already giving me all the information I need to go back and start working on stuff. So kind of neat.
That's great. Yeah.
They were like, yeah, so glad to meet you. Fun, awesome experience. So we get back up to the front to try to have our meeting. Well, they're all gone. Like the decision makers are gone. Left. Yeah. Apparently, it's kind of my point is apparently the relationship is so strong as such that my IT guy expected that we were going to be able to very informally just catch them and have this meeting.
Oh boy.
I get, like, in other words, it wasn't particularly on the calendar because everybody's like, damn, we missed them.
Right.
So I have to have the meeting with the office manager, and then they pull out an industrial designer guy. Nice guy, knowledgeable, but not decision makers.
Right.
But I do my presentation. I have copies for everybody. And I point out in a bunch of bulleted points what I think needs to happen for their online presence to actually generate leads. And I find out, and then I have on my other piece of paper a list of questions that I need answered in order to function appropriately. One of them being, what's the valuation of a new client acquisition? I always need to know this because I need to know what it takes to get into the black. What my goal is just to get into the black, and then everything after that is gravy. Well, it's like a $30,000 annual. If I bring in a new client for them, it's worth about $30,000 for the year. That's awesome. So I'm armed with that. Here's the thing. So I leave. It's on a hugely positive note. It's had a great experience, but I never met with the decision makers.
Right.
I've known this since I was in my 20s, that what a bad situation that is. And I also surmise that as I leave and these people that are representing as in-betweens are saying, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about, really good down-to-earth guy, got a great vibe, all of that. You know how decision makers are. And I don't know them, but there could be ego in the way, like, I'll be the judge of that, And so it could be a big negative. Here's my question to you. This is kind of like an age-old problem. You've encountered it 1,000 times, I'm sure, that you've gotten into a meeting to do your presentation and you find out you're not really with the real decision makers. How do you handle that? How should I handle this? So I think by this is coming out on Monday. So I think by Monday, I need to get a proposal together and try to get that new meeting, authentic meeting on the calendar, and say, I got real numbers for you. I want to present the strategy I think we should take. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that in my experience, everything happens for a reason, right? And it's your business is different than my business. But you have had this fantastic opportunity to get a whole lot of intel on the ground from the actual people that actually are doing the job. And that gives you more of an ability to be a consultant to whoever the owners are, if those are the decision makers, whoever these decision makers are. You come in with a lot more credibility now that you're not just a guy in off the street. You've actually talked to several of the people with great feedback that they can use in order to get a competitive edge in their business. And if I'm sitting behind the desk and trying to make it the best decision for my business, and you're coming in and you're giving me knowledge based on information that you've been able to learn, maybe even information that people in my own business hesitated to tell me because I'm the owner or decision maker, but they were easily, hey man, this thing is broken over here. That's the kind of information that I would want to know if I were the owner or decision maker within the business. So personally, I think that this gives you an advantage. And I do think, I don't know, your business process the way that you do. If it were me, I would want to be meeting with the decision makers and maybe not have a proposal, maybe have an interim meeting to verify that information with them and talk with them about that, and maybe get their take on it and get feedback from them before I would actually come back and put a proposal together. Just stuff off the top of my head on that.
I appreciate the feedback. That's very positive feedback. And I was very leery of this just by past experience. When you don't have decision makers in the room, there's that plain telephone thing going on. But I agree with you. As you say that, I have the opportunity to create a proposal based on some really solid information now that I've talked to them. And I do. And I also feel comfortable with, in this instance, that because of the valuation I can confidently say, I could get you in the black on this in a relatively short period of time. And, thereafter, it's gravy. I think it's a no-brainer. I can present this as a no-brainer.
Then that's fantastic. I think you're in a good place. You may want to consider verifying the information that you've been given by those other people before you go ahead and throw that out there, just to be professional on that whole thing, because you'd hate to have an assumption and then they say, no, that's not exactly right. So that's always something to take a look at. But I think that sounds great. And I was going to say, I mean, I had an experience this week where, two experiences with prospects this week where, I'll just go with the second one, where, we're meeting with a C-level person within a healthcare industry, and she's definitely amongst the decision-making personnel. However, she was very smart in really directing us to her mid-level management to really understand the gaps in her communication scheme, and then come back to her after we've done our work with them, so that we didn't leave any stone uncovered. And I think that that's an important step. And it sounds like that's what you fell right into in your meeting, is really being able to do that. So I see this as all positive for you.
I really appreciate that. I truly do. And I feel confident on how I'm going to move forward, where honestly, half hour ago, I did not. I was
cool.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. It's really nice to be able to bounce things off of you, because you're always going to, in your level, you've seen it all. You do high-end sales in a high-end industry. For me, sales is certainly not what I'd ever call myself as a salesperson. And yet it's a very important part of my career.
It's integral to what you do.
And I think it is.
You can't actually survive without that piece. You're sales and marketing.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel a lot more confident in the marketing end of it. But we've said before, we're all salespeople to some extent. We're always pitching something that is in our best interest, and hopefully a win-win, even if it's in our own relationships.
I mean, think about it. We learned sales when we were kids, negotiating with our parents.
And usually not winning.
Yeah, right.
We learned the hard way on that. Hey, tell me about your week. A highlight or anything?
You know what? It's been a great experience here. As I mentioned, had a couple of client meetings or prospect meetings this
Mhm.
week, and working with my team, we're really starting to gel as a team, and I enjoy the person that I'm working for. As a matter of
Mm.
fact, we've had some extremely stimulating conversations when it comes to. I'm a strategy guy. I really like the strategic aspect of sales, and he happens to line up with that too, and I can learn a lot from him and his mentorship, but I have things that he doesn't know, and he's got a lot of things I don't know either. So it's a great collaboration, as a matter of fact, learning a lot of stuff about the business, even though I've been in the business.
Yeah, like what else do you have to learn?
It's
Jeez.
well, you know what? Every company does things a little bit differently, and also they have their different systems that everything's in a different place. You know what I mean? It's like a toolbox, and but all the tools are in different places than you're used to.
Mhm.
So just kind of learning that type of thing, but getting into those meetings and being with clients, I mean, it's sort of like jumping back into the pool after you've been out. It's like, feels good in
I
here.
love to hear that. Now, is this primarily like via Zoom or is it face to
Yeah,
face?
it's all been Zoom. I mean, boy, talk about Zoom centric. I don't know if every business. I assume a lot of businesses are like this, but every internal meeting that we have, Zoom. It's like,
Wow.
man, I have to
Dude,
comb
what a
my
time
hair every day.
what a time saver. I mean, my
That
God,
is.
every day you're saving hours, probably 2 hours of running around
Uh,
every day.
you know what? You're right about that. I mean, and even I mean, at least one of these meetings, I probably would have flown out to
Mm.
Denver
Think
for.
of that expense.
Yeah. I would have been out there for a couple of days, staying in a hotel and
Mm.
renting a car, and uh, traveling back and forth. Just parking at the airport. I
Do
mean,
you
that's
like doing that though? Do you like traveling for
I do.
business?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some people do, some don't. I would not. There's just a whole lot of hassles involved with rental cars, flying, all the hassle with flying, things that go wrong and
You're
waiting in
right.
lines, waiting, waiting, waiting. I hate all of
Yeah.
that. Uh, but I would like to see some different geographies and different culture. I love that part, but there's so little of that, so little payoff for all that you're doing to make that happen.
It's funny, what you're talking about is that after you've been doing it a while, you start to get some of the perks, like you get to go into the front of the lines and things like that,
Uh,
because you've got the frequent flyer kind of
mm.
stuff going on. And so, however, since I've been out of the business for a while, all of my frequencies have reset. So now I'm just going to be a punk like
What
everybody
have you
else.
done for me lately?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
exactly.
loved you a
Get
little
back
while.
there.
Johnny come lately here.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
while I'm thinking about it, I want to say, hey, everybody, please go to our website, over50startingover.com. We're right on the homepage. You can see everything we have to offer. You can even like our Facebook page from there, where we offer 5 different kinds of content, from startups, business strategies, branding, digital marketing, just the best of the best content will come right into your Facebook feed every day if you like us there. You could also sign up for our podcast or see our video every week. The most important thing I could tell you is sign up for our email list. The pop-up will come up. If you sign up, you'll get our episode as it drops right in your email box. Merle, so what else we got? Like, we got any like current events stuff?
wait, I also wanted to just
Sure.
say, leave comments. We
Yes.
get those comments, and we sort of, it's like our oxygen. So please leave comments. By the way, I got a nice comment this week about this, just the business aspect of what we present here, and how much it was Beth actually that sent the comment saying that she really gets a lot out of this. She's started up her own business, and she really likes the tips, especially the marketing tips
Oh, how
that are
nice.
left here. So wanted to point that out, and thank you, Beth, for that great comment.
I really appreciate that too. And as you say, marketing tips, I got a big one for you right now. I could share briefly, and that is Google My Business. Okay. That is how you register your business on Google. And it is, if you haven't taken a look at it lately, you should always keep things up to date because they're changing, modifying, and adding things. And just a few days ago, I noticed that they enhanced their product section. So you can even put services under there, but I immediately freshened up my dentist's Google My Business presence by putting like a teeth whitening promotion in there and Invisalign, which is like the invisible braces type stuff. And now when you search her and she comes up in Google searches, these lists of products come right there in a scrollable nature. Is going to help the SEO dramatically, but it's also going to help you sell stuff. So you could put your own products and services in there. Check it out. Google My Business.
Pretty cool. Is this the same dentist that we've been talking about on the show?
Holistic. She has a holistic dentist.
Really cool.
Really
marketing.
Cool. But it's battling COVID. So
it's got to be tough for those people.
Yeah, so they can only see I'm guessing like 25% of their original client base because they can't have people all over the office. And they have to sanitize a great deal in between patients.
I would imagine so. Geez.
Yeah. So it's really a strain. So, and people like you and I, if we've been thinking about getting teeth whitened or something like that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Not during COVID.
Wait, right,
yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like what hospitals are facing. It's like that to a smaller degree is the elective procedures are not taking place.
Speaking of that, Invisalign, you ever have to wear braces?
I did at 27, dude.
I remember that now. Yeah.
In college, my teeth were pretty crooked, and I always felt very self-conscious.
I can see your teeth are beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Now, if you're on a podcast, you got to come over to YouTube video now. I'm just kidding. I really appreciate that. So at 27, I got the braces at that time. I got the ones, they had the clear little things on them.
I kind of remember that.
But with a wire held in between. And, like every month or two, they crank that up.
Yeah.
And it would hurt really bad. I had them on for like a year and a half.
Terrible.
It was a pain in the butt, and I was dating a lot during that time. But I never regretted it. Very happy that I did it.
Good for you. Good for you. I never had to do that, but I saw my brother go through it.
Oh, really?
It was they had to actually remove before they even began. They removed 4 teeth.
4.
And
usually it's like
4.
2.
It was like 2 on each side. I think it was 2. You know what? I was a teenager at the time, and I remember coming home from school or football practice or something, and Scott was like all passed out on the couch with swollen cheeks. And it was just like, oh. I don't want any of that.
Interesting factoid. Just recently, I listened to a podcast. I don't remember which one, but they're talking about crooked teeth versus straight teeth. And this is more the crooked teeth with braces is a newer phenomena, meaning like the last 100 years, 200 years or whatever, because we used to naturally have straighter teeth because we were eating more raw foods and more raw meat. And so we're always
raw meat.
And well, I shouldn't say raw meat.
Okay.
But tougher foods, like less cooked vegetables, like raw vegetables, everything was more chewing and all of that. So now, if comparatively speaking, and I guess I'm talking over hundreds of years this has evolved, even as I'm saying it.
So there could be some raw meat there.
There could be some raw meat in there.
Just take a hack out of a rabbit.
But supposedly our teeth were naturally straighter because of all of the tension that we're constantly putting on them.
Oh yeah, that's a big deal. And people, like when they're sleeping, they're grinding their teeth because of the stress of the job and all that kind of stuff. And I
wonder, as we said, I wonder what the stress of wondering if you're going to get eaten in your sleep hundreds of years ago, or in our country, what it was like 200 years ago, and you're expanding into new territories.
A bear will get you or something. I mean,
Native American Indians. The war between those two factions. What I'm wondering is, what was I sincerely wonder, what was the stress like for a person then compared to our stress today? It's totally different.
Oh yeah. You know what? Speaking of that, just the other day, and this is nothing, but I watched Forensic Files right before I went to bed. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
Never heard of it.
Oh, it's really cool. They've solved these murder mysteries. They find like a speck of dust somewhere in the corner, and they're like, "Oh, that's some DNA on there. Oh, we figured it out. It's Bernie Smith."
Yeah.
Very interesting. But I mean, the way that they do these shows, they're like a half-hour show, and they string them all up together, and they're so interesting at the beginning. So just as you're finishing one and your jaw's on the ground, like, how did they do that? Then they bring up another one, and you're like, how did that? Before you know it, you've watched like 6 episodes of this, and then I went to bed. I woke up several times in the night thinking someone was in my room. And I'm just saying, 200 years ago, I mean, you're thinking there's a bear in your room, or there's something's going to eat you or cut your head off or something. I mean, it had to be a lot worse. So we got nothing compared to what those guys went through.
Oh, it's just so different, though. I mean, the anxiety that we grow up with now, don't underestimate what kids are going through with just social media growing up.
Yeah.
And feeling
I can't even relate to that.
I think a lot about it. So I feel like I have empathy for it because of the bullying that goes on there, and they're so impressionable. I know how messed up, insecure, and impressionable I was when I was young. And if I was on social media looking at everybody putting their fake faces on there and their fake lives on there, holding that up as a mirror of perfection, I am feeling so more inadequate than I could possibly be without social media. I want to look.
That's a good point.
I had forgotten to do that. I wanted to look up what the suicide rates are in younger people these days. I'll bet you they are high.
I think they are. I think that's something that's kind of out of control now.
And, and you couple that with, and we've talked a lot about this, and I don't think it could be talked about enough, is the coddling that we have done with the generation that is now protesting about everything under the sun and removing names like, the Washington Redskins just eliminated Redskins. They're just Washington.
They're the
now.
Washington football team.
I know. Oh, God. So so everybody's so sensitive and we pander to that. And this is so unnatural. And it gets right back to all this anxiety that I'm talking about, that gets right to suicide rates.
You're right.
We have to teach people how to deal. Everything in life is nothing but a struggle. And if you try to take those struggles away, it's unending. People will create chaos because we like chaos. As men, we need chaos. We thrive for it. Look at video games. I mean, young people lose half of their lives in video games to what? Trying to get to the next level of chaos because they already mastered this chaos. So it's continuously looking for a higher level of it to master it. So if you go out in life and you don't teach them to look for challenges to conquer and feel proud of, they are going to create chaos and try to bring this world down as they are now so that they can master it in whatever way they want. And we talk a lot about socialism, communism, Marxism eking its way in. There is definitely a movement for that, but I think most younger people just want the chaos. I really do.
Interesting theory you have there. I can relate to that in a bit. And, and you go back to the social media aspect of things and kids having to deal with that.
It's horrible.
And in light of bullying as well. And, let's face it, it's sort of a rite of passage, the whole bullying thing. I mean, I remember when we were kids, it wasn't like we were immune to it. I had to deal with bullies in my life. And, and you learn how to deal with that. You learn that being passive in those situations is usually encouraging to the bully.
Yeah.
That's you kind of have to. There's some scary stuff you have to deal with, but we only had to do that, face to face, which that wasn't easy.
Right.
These guys, I mean, these are like people that are almost like phantoms they have to deal with because they're online. And speaking of that, Nextdoor, that app,
we talk about that a lot.
I unsubscribed this week.
Wow, I'm not surprised, but tell me about it.
It was toxic. It was just toxic.
I think it's
Anybody that comes out with anything that disagrees with the media line
yeah,
these days are targeted, and the meanest comments from your
yeah.
neighbors
From your neighbors.
fly at you. And I just think that that's terrible. I don't want to. I, I don't want to be walking around my neighborhood thinking this is what all my neighbors think about my opinions and my beliefs.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw somebody just made an innocent comment about what's happening. I mean, they probably should not have made a political statement, but it happens all the time. And he just happened to be on the right
Mhm.
and was making an observation about Joe Biden and his mental state, which I think is a legitimate comment when you
Yeah.
start hearing some of the stuff that's coming out. But oh my gosh, I mean, talk about crucifying this poor guy.
It would happen in my neighborhood too.
I thought, you know what, there's no place for that. I mean, I don't need to have that. As much benefit as you get out of knowing what's happening around your neighborhood, I think it still ends up being a deficit. I want to think well of my neighbors. I don't mind people disagreeing with my opinion.
Sure.
I just don't want them to crucify me as a person because I have a different opinion than they
Sure.
do. So I think that type of it seems like our environment, as we talked about this year, especially at the beginning of the show, has really spawned that type of thing where
Sure
there's
it
no
has.
tolerance, no
Oh,
tolerance.
it's
for somebody
frustration.
having a different opinion. That's why I think we set a great example when it comes to that, Barry.
Well, and this is what I want to follow up with you. I'm disappointed that you dropped off of Nextdoor. I'm not surprised. I get it. Everything that you said, I totally understand and agree with. But you are such a person of strong faith and positivity. First of all, I take Nextdoor in very small doses because of
Right.
exactly what you're saying. But there are times when I absolutely go in there and I gently say that, you know, this is going south, figured it would, wish you wouldn't participate, or I have frequently said, when I post something and it's by the 15th comment, it doesn't matter what it is. I saw a cute puppy. By the 15th comment, somebody will find a way to turn that into something derogatory. And if it's my post, I'll say, I'm not going to feed into taking this off the rails. And,
Right.
But other times I've come out and said, you know, I don't think you should be calling your neighbors a racist. I don't think you should tar and feather your neighbors.
Right.
But I do this very rarely, sparingly. Other times you always get the person that comes out and says, gets on his soapbox and says, all these really important things going on in the world, and you people are talking about parking spaces. And I come out and say, it's amazing to me that people expect to be solving world peace on an app called Nextdoor.
Right, exactly.
This is an appropriate place to talk about small neighborhood issues.
That's what it should be.
And
right?
it should. I wish you would get back on there to serve that purpose.
I wish that it were a situation where people were open to that. And the problem is that they're not. And there's actually, it seems like there's a mob on there. And
Agreed.
I don't, you know, when you have a mob mentality, you're not going to get anywhere with those people. It's sort of like, did you see the mayor of Portland?
By the way, when it gets to that point, just say, okay, this is where I delete notifications, and you just sign off. I wish you would get back on for that purpose, because there are other people in my neighborhood, a few, that also do that. And I don't want to sound like I'm playing some kind of a online superhero here. We got enough of that. Okay. It's called SJWs. And I'm not playing that role. I just want to throw out a little bit of common sense there. That's all. And I wish you would do that.
Yeah, I'm out.
All right. You know what? I'm the same way with Facebook. I very rarely post any other than our stuff. And I very rarely look through my feed either, because when I do, you're scrolling, almost gets addictive that you're scrolling, and I feel my frustration meter rising.
Yeah,
the
that's
negativity
the thing, right?
meter.
Yeah.
And I force myself to I just hit Command W, which is close. before I think about it too much and get back into it.
Well, and that's the thing with Nextdoor is that, and maybe I have it so it notifies my inbox when stuff comes up, and it was like 9 out of 10 things that were coming up were things that were just toxic,
negative. Yeah.
and it's like, you know what, I don't want to have that experience every time I go into my email. And the thing is it's almost like a magnet. It's like, what, they said that, let me look at them. And then you look at the comments and you're like, oh, how could they say that? And then you're mad, and it's like, you know what, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
There's enough negativity in the world. I don't need to inflict myself.
You got to detach, though. I try to think of myself more as an observer.
Oh,
but I know
same here. And like I said, there's enough of it where I do that I don't need to purposely dive into a cesspool.
I see.
And also, if I had it where it didn't notify me, I would never look at it. So it didn't make sense for me to continue on in that whole thing.
All right. I don't know.
Anyway, well, let's move on. I mean, because we're really cruising through the time here. I mentioned Nextdoor, but speaking of these things, I wanted to bring up, did you see where Joe Biden said that Trump is the first racist to be elected into the White House?
No. Oh, that's terrible.
It is terrible.
We've
sunk to a new low.
Yeah, my heart just sank right there. I didn't get angry. I just that somebody running for president is now doing the racist thing. I can't tell you how disappointed I am.
The lowest common denominator, right? I mean,
it's thrown around with reckless abandon. Now it's basically lost all of its meaning. So, like we said it before, let's just all admit we're racist and get it over with. Because by today's standards,
everyone's racist, right? Exactly.
It's impossible not to be.
Well, and then you look at it and you're like, wait a second, how many presidents did we have that actually were slave owners? And you're going to say this guy's the first racist in there? I mean, have you read the American history? I don't know. You know, we had a president that put all the Japanese people in California in concentration camps.
Wow. True.
Imagine if Trump did that. I mean, this is, we're living in a weird world here where revisionist history seems to work. How can that work?
It doesn't. We are living in chaos. I mean, people are accomplishing what they are setting out to do. It is absolute chaos now. And with this COVID, heightening frustrations, anxieties, the worry of our economy, getting right back to where we started. But it's inevitable. Where does it go from here? Is there an end? Is there an end to this? Is there a successful end?
You know, it seems that I don't know. I wish that I could say that there was.
Let me throw this at you.
All right.
I think that, and this is not, I don't mean this to be political speak at all, but I believe that Trump's going to win in a landslide because I think the silent majority is larger than ever because there is no free speech anymore. People that are moderate cannot say that voluntarily online without being completely condemned by the mob, as you said. So I think the silent majority is larger than ever, and therefore, and I think the left has gotten so crazy and out of control that the moderates, which is most of America, are going to vote with Trump because we don't have another choice. And so my question to you is, let's assume that happens. How do we go from there the day after the election? If that happens, and if it's very a strong deciding, it's not close, let's say. What do you think the next year looks like? The next day?
I don't think it's going to be pretty.
Yeah. Do you think it'd be right? Or do you think it would be like, especially if it's like kind of overwhelming, do you think it'd be like reality comes crashing down?
Well, here's what I think is that this is just my hope. I see where the most of the trouble seems to be this push-pull in Congress, and I'm not just talking about between our legislative branch and our executive branch, and it seems that Republicans and Democrats both in Congress have aligned themselves against the president of the United States. And I think it has a lot to do with, when Trump ran for president, he ran on this drain the swamp kind of thing. And the swamp isn't, let's get rid of the Democrats. The swamp is to get rid of the corruption, this whole,
I would say extreme lobbying.
Lifelong Congress, people that have been in there forever, and that's on both sides of the aisle. At the root of it, there's corruption there. So these people are very aligned to the bureaucratic state. They're letting the bureaucracy write most of these bills.
Lobbyists run this country.
Yeah, it is happening. So it's interesting. I think we talked about this before, but Nixon in his second term really ran on a drain the swamp type of a platform, where he didn't run on that in his first platform. And look what happened to him. He won in a landslide. And before his first year was out, he was impeached. He was almost impeached. He had to resign before he was impeached, because he knew he would be impeached and convicted. Mm-hmm. This is what seems to have happened. So we have to see who wins this battle. And I think you're right that there is a silent majority that's seeing what's happening. I look at, like, for instance, Mitch McConnell, being a Republican. We all knew that this Russian collusion thing at the beginning was a hoax. The
2.5 years
dossier, and they had the majority in the Senate, and they also had the majority in the House. They knew that this was a hoax, and they didn't do anything about it. There were a couple of people that tried to do something about it, but they didn't. Those people should not be in Congress anymore. They wasted the American taxpayers' time and money. There should be other people in there that are making decisions. And I'm hoping that in this 2020 election, that their day of reckoning is coming. I'm really hoping that. I mean, of course, the Nancy Pelosi's out there. Of course, I've seen who she's running against, and that guy's probably worse. But I mean, I'm just hoping that a lot of these people that are in there now, Chuck Schumer, the race baiters that are in there today, there needs to be a wholesale change here. And otherwise, we're looking at 4 more years of this.
Equally complicit is the media, obviously.
They're all in.
And I feel like, I'm telling you, I feel like the day of reckoning is coming for mainstream media. And I say that because, you know what a huge Jordan Peterson fan I am. His YouTube videos have millions of followers. Millions. These people are not watching mainstream media. It is very obvious to millions of people that these are lies and propaganda being put forth to the American public. And I do think, and I remember, I used to listen to NPR for like 20 years straight in the car. I never changed the radio station. It was always on NPR. Yep. Until it was like to the day that Trump won the RNC, he won the Republican nomination. And it wasn't not when he won presidency. It was like to the day that he won the nomination, NPR went off the rails, immediately lost their minds. And I've seen that increase across all of mainstream media at the same time. But I was listening to NPR so much, it's where I saw it, obviously.
Boy, I feel like once these things happened, I mean, in your life, because I remember a few episodes ago, you were talking about what happened right after Trump was elected, and you went to a church, and they basically held a funeral.
They did.
You really had your world rocked.
Yeah, for sure. So my point is I think that the day after this election, if it is a landslide, that it's a day of reckoning, that mainstream media has got, like, I don't know. how many people are taking in mainstream media? It seems like they are losing viewership. It seems like people are wisening up to it. We have podcasts now that are taking over media so much more than ever before, YouTube as well. All this independent stuff that it's got to be so frustrating for these 5 major companies that own mainstream media that they can't control that. No, as much as YouTube and Facebook and all of them try to, and they are quite successful to an extent. But at the end of the day, I'm listening to podcasts all day long that are very truly mainstream, truly moderate. And moderate is common sense, man. And
Well, it's interesting.
There's not common sense going on right now.
And when anyone that tries to bring common sense or some sort of moderate aspect to the media, again, those people get the torches, get the pitchforks, get these guys out of here. Did you see, it was a couple of weeks ago now, but it was the woman from the New York Times that was pushed out, Barry Weiss, and her resignation from the New York Times. She was a centrist for the New York Times, and she was bullied. By her own team, just anti-Semitic types of bullying happening to her, and she had to resign. And she's put an article out there. Her resignation letter actually went viral, but it was the things that are happening at the New York Times right now. And this is, as you're saying, this is the media. They are the newspaper of record, and they've been known as that for some time. But the propaganda that they're pushing out, just this week, they put an op-ed out from, it was Chinese propaganda that was out there, and it was criticism over how Trump handled the coronavirus from a Chinese molecular neurobiologist, and how this person's uncle, if they would have been in China, they would have survived. And because Trump and the way that he handled things, that this person's uncle died. It's the New York Times that they apologized for running an op-ed from U.S. Senator Tom Cotton, and yet they're running this Chinese propaganda in there.
I'll say on the other hand, though, I was surprised to see, like yesterday in the New York Times ran an article about the Portland mayor, Ted Wheeler, who has been sucking up to the far left riots.
Boy, he sure has.
Which you see very little of in mainstream media, by the way. There's a war going on in Portland, and most people don't know about it. When I do see actual footage of it, wow, man, that's terrifying what's going on.
It is terrifying. He
got caught in tear gas.
Well, he put himself where the tear gas was.
Yeah.
He went right up there, put his nose right there, and tear gas. I mean, how did he not know that was going to happen?
I want to ask you what your opinion is on what the hell is going on in Portland. How do you live? If I live there, see, as somebody that I don't even know anybody that's living in Portland, I say put up a big fence around it and let them work their stuff out. Let's see how their methodology and their ideology unfolds. And in other words, let's see them destroy themselves. But then there's a rational side of me that says, I don't want to see these people kill each other. And the destruction of innocent people and lives that are going on there, destroying their businesses and things like that, that should not be taking place. And how are these mayors, like the Seattle mayor, how are they not held accountable for this violence?
I don't understand it, to be honest with you. And by the way, it's not just Portland. It's the way the entire state is run. It is really a socialist-run state. And what we're seeing is socialism run amok. But Portland being their biggest city in the state and also the capital, this is, I don't know if they're not the capital.
Are they not?
I'm not sure. I don't want to jump out there and say that they are.
Sure.
Maybe they are. I don't know. But anyway, they're in trouble, man. And just this morning I was reading about how, they have these, you were speaking about Mayor Wheeler and how he got tear gas. So he's standing there next to the federal building that's been fenced off. and he's with the protesters, and the protesters are trying to rip down this fence, and he's just standing there like, this is all good.
Yeah.
And of course they're throwing the feds are coming out now. They had been inside the building the whole time, but now that they're trying to rip down the fence, they're coming out. You're seeing all kinds of objects flying from the protest crowd at these federal agents, and then the tear gas happens. Well, earlier in that whole event, the mayor had come out to address this mob of people, and I say mob because as soon there's no way anybody could hear him. If you look at footage of this, there's no way anybody could hear what he was saying. Basically, he was trying to say that he was with them and that the Fed should go home. They were yelling over top of him such obscenities, and I could not even believe. I thought, dude, you are not in a safe position. In fact, while he was standing there in front of the federal building when they were trying to rip down the fence, they were throwing stuff at him. Somebody got a leaf blower and had gotten within a few feet of him and was just blowing air at him from the leaf blower. I mean, such disrespect.
Why not get a squirt gun?
I mean, right? I mean, he's got a leaf blower.
Who thought of that?
Okay, so this guy is for them, and they're treating him like that. I mean, God, with friends like
eating
that,
each other alive. There you go, friends like that.
I'm telling you, this guy's out of control, and he's trying to say that the problem is because of Donald Trump. I mean, you've lost complete control of your city. And have you seen these moms that came out that are protesting as well? Yeah, are you kidding me? I'm telling you. If I had a battle and then my mom had to come out, how embarrassing. I mean, what are you, a little kid? What is going on here? And here's the other thing. They keep talking about, you hear in the background, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Where are the black people? There's like 2 or 3 of them in the crowd. Where are...
It's total madness, man. Everything going on today, it's total madness. And by the way, the capital of Oregon, I could never have guessed this in a million years.
Wait, let me guess. Helena?
Never heard of
Olympia.
That? Nope. Go again. How about starts with an S?
Oh, Salem.
Yeah. I never would have guessed that.
Thanks.
And I had to memorize that stuff when I was in school. Yeah, whatever.
I think Olympia is Washington. But anyway.
Okay. Where are we? Where are we here? I've got to tell you about this. So last night I saw in the news this Elder Fox documentaries. I got to remember to put a link in the show notes to it. It is a YouTube video, high definition of the Mars, the rovers that are on Mars. They have all of these big, long landscapes of very high definition images of Mars. Dude, it's exactly like you're walking around on Mars. I mean,
oh, cool.
And so I found it fascinating. And immediately I kept thinking, though, the entire time, it looked exactly like you're in like Utah, in the desert of Utah. And the rocks, you get all these close-up images of the rocks, looks just like Earth. The sky, eerily, look like you're on Earth a lot. Now, they did say at one point, a lot of these images where the color has been slightly altered, something to bring out certain levels of detail for archaeologists or whatever.
Right.
Because there are some photos where the sky looks just blue. And see, I would have half thought that it would look like the moon. You see space, you know what I mean?
Oh, right.
So there is a very thin
But there's an atmosphere,
it's very
thin.
An
atmosphere which is causing that, correct.
But it is pretty eerie in a lot of spots. It looks like in something of crater-like dips, or a valley, I should say. There are wave-looking things, like fine sediment that looks like it's waves, like water.
Interesting.
Definitely looks like evidence of water. Now, as I understand it, there's water underneath the surface of Mars that we know. But it definitely looks like evidence of where water has eroded areas, has affected areas. You got to look that stuff up. Again, it's called Elder Fox Documentaries. I will leave a link to it in our show notes. It's fascinating.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. I really expected to see a lizard in there somewhere. You know, that's another thing, not a blade of grass. You know, you're just looking for just a little clover peeking up.
Right.
Nothing.
I've seen pictures from the rovers that are on there, and it does look like, I mean, there's a tree. I mean, it's amazing that there's not, because it is pretty amazing over there.
Yeah.
You almost expect to see Mount Rushmore, you know, or
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, really.
It does look like it's inhabitable, but what are we going to do with that? I love the scientific aspect, and I keep hearing, oh, we're going to send people to Mars, which, okay, that's pretty cool, but really, why?
Then what?
Yeah. What, are we planning on moving there, or?
We've talked about this before, and I really believe we're long overdue to reach out to get off this planet. Just for one thing, I don't know, the new frontier. There is, you know, there's something about humans that we are geared towards evolution. We're geared towards exploration, chaos again. If we're not exploring, then we're fidgety, and then we're caught in our day-to-day world on a hamster wheel. We need to explore. We need to get off this planet and beyond. That's just in our nature.
Yeah, you know, I like I said, I'm fascinated by the science of it, and I think it's pretty cool. I definitely want us to explore that whole thing, but I mean, maybe now with the whole coronavirus and everything, it's like, boy, it sure would be nice to just move over to Mars and get away from all of this crazy stuff.
Yeah. I'm wildly into all the UFO stuff now more than ever in my lifetime, because it's so accessible now with Amazon Prime, YouTube, Netflix. Netflix is getting on my nerves in a big way. It's gone so far left, and all of its programming, it's gotten manipulative.
I'm so glad you said that. I had to unsubscribe from that as well, because of the same. As soon as they brought on Obama as like their onto their staff, I thought, okay, I'm out of here. What?
Yeah.
What does he know about Netflix?
Yeah, I agree. But so anyways, I'm just saying that back to the UFO thing. Okay, so the government now admits, most people I think don't know this, but the government readily admits there are unidentified flying objects.
Right.
All right. We don't know what they are. They defy physics as we know it. So there's technology out there that we don't know how to deal with. So this is another part of why I think we need to enhance our space exploration.
I've got a question for you regarding that, because you had me watch a video. I forgot the guy's name.
Bob Lazar.
There was some information that I thought was really interesting, and it had to do with the fact that the commercial side of this, like private business, that had been involved in this, that the government they weren't a part of. In other words,
that sounds like SpaceX, like Elon Musk stuff.
Yeah, but even before SpaceX, but you know, back in the 80s and 90s, when the Russians and the United States were looking at this, it was like the U.S. government didn't have access to certain information, that they were alluding to the fact that private business did have access to. And so maybe the reason that these things are unidentified right now is just for the very fact that they are unidentified by the government. But who knows? I mean, the fact is that the sky is the limit as far as what we can do and how we can do it. If there are things out there that are defying our physics, could it be from another world, or could it be that there are things that have been invented here that we just don't know about?
It could be, but that's real life-changing stuff.
True.
It could parallel universe. I mean, these so-called aliens in human forms, the Greys, they're humanoid form. They sure do fit the profile of what we probably will look like in 500 years.
Well, see, that's where I have a lot of skepticism, is that I understand that they've seen, crafts, like what Bob Lazar was talking about, that device and
anti-gravity.
But he didn't say that he saw like little green men or anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Is like, we don't really have that. And I don't know how real that actually is. And I don't
There's a
think
lot
anybody
more
does.
evidence to that than you think. And I want to talk about that more in the future, but there's a couple of programs that I have watched in these regards that I need to rewatch so I can get some facts right. Because the
Yeah.
first time I watch it, I'm usually half asleep and I'm like, wow, that's cool. And then I fall asleep at the good part or whatever. I need to
Right.
rewatch these things because I don't want to sit here and talk like a crazy person because it sounds, I know what it
Does
sounds
sound
like.
crazy.
It
I know, you're
does.
right.
But if I can
Right.
back it up with the evidence that I see,
Yeah.
which, you know, I have to make more of a mental note of,
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of that a lot more. There's some fascinating.
All right. Well, that sounds good.
fascinating
I'll just put it out there. I don't believe that we're physically evolving.
Oh, okay. Well, I know that flies in the face of your religion. I totally get that.
I don't, it's not just my religion, but yeah, I mean, I don't see any evidence of it.
Oh, I absolutely believe we're evolving, and I absolutely believe it's inevitable that we're going to merge with technology. We already are with our iPhones or smartphones.
I don't see that as physically evolving, though.
Oh, it's definitely going to. I know we're going to be merging with technology. We're going to have chips in our head inside of 5 years.
I understand what you're saying. I just don't see that as evolution. I see that as scientific advancement, but I don't know if that fits into actual evolution.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The theory is that our heads will get bigger because we're going to become telepathic. We're not going, and our mouths are going to get smaller because we're not going to really be using them much anymore. And our limbs will get much smaller because we won't be needing physical as much as we need mental in the future.
I see. If this is true, then I am highly evolved. I have a huge head. I can barely find a hat that fits my head.
I think you are evidence. You know how there's the missing link? There's the missing link from millions of years ago. You're our forward missing link. You're evidence.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Hey, why don't we wind this up? We're just over an hour by a couple of minutes, I think, and got
Sounds
a lot
good.
to do. So, hey, everybody, get back to over50startingover.com and leave us some comments, sign up to our email list. Brother, I love you, and I'll
Love you
talk
too,
to you,
man.
and I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good, Barry.